Hey folks, welcome to the channel. And in today's video, this is my original mock, which is of course the iconic San Siro Stadium. The home of both AC and Inter Milan, although I always think of it as AC Milan Stadium, mainly because it's red. But it is one of the most recognisable stadiums in all of football and has a long history, being used in the 1990 World Cup in Italy several times for games. It's been the host of loads of European Cup finals and Champions League games, and in 2026 it will host the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics. So I've built this onto a base which is 24 studs by 34 studs, so it's quite big even for a micro scale, but it has to be to make it in scale to the other stadiums I've built, because it is a huge stadium in real life with a capacity of just over 80,000, and it is the largest stadium in Italy and one of the largest in Europe. It was this interesting curved concrete layered building back in the day, and then they added another tier on top and then the iconic roof, which was completed just in time for the World Cup in 1990. I remember watching it on TV at the time and it was a cool looking building, and it still is. And famously, the rooftop has a huge gap between it and the seating. It rests on the 4 pillars in the corner, and one of my favourite features is the red crisscross steel structures on the top. It's really unusual, especially for a stadium to be coloured as well and not just grey and white and glass. Then surrounding the stadium on the ground are those disc structures connected via gates and fences. They are actually the entry gates where the turnstiles are, and they are an essential detail I had to include in the build. So from above the mock, you can really see how the red steel structures were built by myself. I've done those using good old fashioned red fence pieces. They are old school Lego, and I've got a bunch of them from the 80s and 90s and never been able to find a use for them, so it's actually great to finally use them for something. They're connected with studs on side bricks, so I can tile the top, and then I put the fence pieces horizontally and they overlap the grey grill pieces underneath. It's a nice look, and I can't think of a better way of doing it, though it does use a ton of those grey grill pieces. So I actually had to order more because I didn't have enough in my own collection. I've actually lost count, but as you can see from up here, the sheer number of grill pieces, a couple of hundred at least. It kind of looks a bit like a really long piano. To get the rooftop to look accurate, I had to try and get it slightly to overlap at the top and not be uniform. It's hard to explain, but I had to offset the red fence pieces by about half a stud so they don't cover the grey bits below on the south stand. It worked in the end, and I even managed to get it wider at this bit here at the back, which is like that in real life. I'm pretty pleased with how it looks, especially at the corners. It's turned out quite accurate really. Up high again, and the pitch is visible at this angle, and it's worth pointing out how weird the colours are inside San Siro. I'll go into a bit more detail in a sec for the interior. But yeah, when you look at photos of the real thing, you can see the blue, orange, green and red seating. It's not the nicest look, to be honest, but I had to make it realistic. I used a bunch of those studs on side 1x1 bricks in white, and they're interspersed with studs and cheese slope bricks to get the look of that section. I topped those bits with tiles and created a curved tiled section to go around the edge. It took ages to figure out, and I connected it with studs on side bricks to the corners, kind of like it is in real life. It works perfectly and it's very strong. I really like the end result, and I used dark grey and light grey to contrast with each other like the concrete in real life. For the San Siro seating, I used the seating plan from the stadium website. So red is the south side with green on the east, blue is west and yellow north. Luckily I had a bunch of sloped pieces in the other colours, but for yellow I used orange as well because I ran out, and it looks okay. This is actually how I started it. So I made a basic base first, then added the pitch. This time I went green striped, and then started lining the side with wedges. This is how I always start my stadiums. A bit like real life, I suppose. They kind of start with the pitch itself. You just gotta build around the grass. I then layered white and grey plates to get the layered look, and then built the curved bit around the edge. The curved bits in the corner have studs on, which is a shame, but you can't really see them when the rooftop is on. It's very colourful, and that actually brightens it up quite a bit. Now to the exterior again. I used round tiles on studs for the entry gates, and they're spaced out equally on jumper plates in a curve, and it looks great, I think. Simple but effective. The grey round columns that support the layered intersection are done in Lego using grey dish pieces. I can't find a better way of representing this, and I actually had to buy loads of them for this build as I didn't have that many in my collection. I had lots of different colours but not so many in grey. It looks good, I think. I'll go back and show you a bit more of the rooftop build. Snot bricks here, not too complicated, but I had to measure out the structure to get it in proportion. It's built on white plates that are wider on one side, then line the edges with upturned narrower fence pieces. The corners are just those four-sided 1x1 snot bricks, and then I used bricks capped with tiles to meet each other at some sections, so they're not actually connected with a stud, they just rest against each other, but it totally works. Underneath, as I said, it's white plates as the main structure, and they're secured with grey narrow plates. It's very, very strong. I've already displayed this mock at LEGO conventions, and I regularly remove the rooftop to show people inside, and it's a solid build. Even the grey grill pieces stay on easy enough. And it all lines up perfectly with the round corner pieces, so basically like real life. It's almost the same construction as the real thing, I suppose, and it goes back on top very simply. Oh gosh, I love the way this looks. And I think the proportions of the gap are spot on. It's one brick and a plate in height, and the dimensions are really close to how it is in real life. It took me a few attempts, but I think it's about as good as it gets. For an example, here we are next to Newcastle Stadium as a bit of contrast. I think I've got the scaling correct. San Siro is massive and it's a substantially larger stadium, so I'm happy that I got that bit of it right. One thing I wanted to point out is I've seen other mocks out there online of San Siro, nothing on YouTube, but I saw this one on Pinterest by a guy called Suwon Star, I think that's how you pronounce it, and I always make sure I don't copy what I've seen elsewhere. The only thing I kinda did similar is the grey dish pieces as the columns, and of course I used grey grill pieces on top, but I honestly can't do it any other way, so it is similar in that regard. But I've tried very hard in every other aspect not to replicate what this chap has done in his version. Well, there we have it, San Siro microscale. I'm hoping I've done it justice. If you're an AC Milan fan or an Inter Milan fan, please let me know how I did. I am doing a few more stadiums. Next one is going to be the Allianz Arena in Germany, the home of Bayern Munich, so check that out when it comes. Thanks so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!